All right, well, hello everybody. I wanted to do a video of our European delivery trip and really just a program in general that Porsche offers. I've gotten a lot of questions about it because this is my second European delivery, so I wanted to develop a video and people can share it, and hopefully it'll help you plan your trip if you're intending to do a European delivery. I thought what better place to do this review than when we're actually on our second European delivery right now. My background is related to European delivery. Is my dad did it in 1961. It was called a factory tour there back then, but I grew up listening to these awesome stories of him flying over to Germany and picking up a 356, 1961. He called it fire engine red because his dad was a fireman, but it was really signal red. And he drove that over to Bremerhaven, put it on a ship, and brought it back. So it took me about 30 years to save up enough money for my 981 Boxster S. That was a 2014. I did an individual delivery out of Stuttgart in 2013. And then right now I just picked up about 10 days ago, a 2018 Carrera 4 out of Leipzig. And we ended up going down to Romania because I wanted to drive the Trans-Figurison Highway, one of the most awesome driving roads in the world, and it is, and I've done Stelvio and this one's better. And then right now we're headed to Venice and we're currently in Slovenia. So a little bit about European delivery, and my wife is going to help me with some questions because I'm driving and I don't have my notes in front of me. But European delivery, basically what it is it's a program that allows you to fly to Europe, get a tour of the factory, pick up your car, drive it around for X number of days, bring it back, drop it off, and then send it back to the United States. And what better way to enjoy your new Porsche than driving it all around these beautiful roads in Europe. So I'll talk a little bit about the individual tour delivery I did in Stuttgart. Basically what the program offers is a one-night stay in a very nice hotel, a 5-star hotel. You get a factory tour, a museum tour. They pick up lunch and they give you a bunch of little trinkets and stuff like that. They also give you 16 days of insurance. You can extend that if you just pay a little bit more. They give you a price list. But there are some restraints because you can't have the car in Europe for more than 6 months without taking it out of the country, or you got to pay the 19% value-added tax. You also you're limited to 6,000 kilometers, and very few people are going to challenge that. I'm really going to challenge it on this trip. I'll be probably close to, I'm thinking about 3,500 miles or so pretty close to 6,000 kilometers. And then in the wintertime, you have to have winter wheels. It's just a law in Germany. Porsche provides that for you. If you're coming in the wintertime, they'll swap out the tires. You basically get free miles on tires, and then when you bring it back to the factory, they'll put your original summer tires on to ship it back to the United States. That's pretty cool. So that's probably the individual program. Now the difference between Stuttgart and Leipzig is Leipzig, instead of a museum tour, although they do have some cars on display there, they give you track time, which was just fantastic. I think I had about 26 or 30 laps, and we did. I did a group delivery there, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's a little bit different. It was lap time, and I got to take my wife with me in the car, and it was a lead-follow scenario where we just leapfrogged over each other after each lap. It was just a fantastic time. We had a safety car in front of us who challenged us to push the cars and also kept us pretty safe. A lead-follow relationship. So the group delivery, which I did, and Porsche just started doing this in July of 2016. They did their first one. Their second one was July of 2017. I was just fortunate that my date fell around that time, and they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I'm like, heck yeah, because you end up getting to spend a lot of time with other people that are just like you, love Porsches, went out to do the European delivery, you get to have dinner with them, etc. Now, the difference with the group delivery is it's like the individual delivery on steroids. So you get 2 nights in the hotel. They gave us a walking tour of Leipzig, which was by a professional. She was a PhD of history in that region. She was fantastic. And then they also gave us lunch, and so you get a little bit more of a different environment. Yeah, social type environment. I really enjoyed that, just talking to other people like me that loved cars.
I loved it too. Right?
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about other things. Getting onto the,
talk about the benefits, costs.
Yeah. So the benefits and costs. When you go into your dealership, this is how it works. You tell them you want a European delivery. It costs the dealer about $3,000. He has to pay Porsche Cars in North America. So there's a disincentive for him to do that. It makes it more difficult for you to negotiate a good price. And I'll tell you that it was challenging for me. It took me to deal with a couple dealerships on my first time to get the price that I wanted, but it's not a total dead end for the dealership, because they get an allocation, an additional allocation when they do a European delivery. So the bottom line is, it makes it more difficult for you to negotiate. You need to be up front with the dealer that you're getting European delivery. It's advertised as a no-cost option, which it is. However, it makes it more difficult to get a good price. I ended up getting a 5% discount plus a $3,000 European delivery, and that is a fantastic deal. I had a good relationship with the dealership. The other people at my table were getting 0% discount. Anyway, just recognize that. So when you fill out the paperwork, the dealer should be able to walk you through that. They send it into Porsche Cars of North America. They have a very small staff there. There's two people. One is a permanent Porsche employee. The other one's a contractor. He looks like he's going to be there for a while. I ended up taking them out to, after the delivery, I took them out for drinks just to thank them and everything. And I also wanted to pick their brain a little bit to understand what they do. They had 384 deliveries in 2016, so that's quite a bit. But what that does mean is that there's some dealerships that never do a European delivery. So they have limited expertise and limited knowledge about how to do it, so it's difficult for them to navigate you through that. So you can always go to Porsche Cars of North America directly. There's an email address on the configurator when you select it, etc. You can find it. But then there's other dealerships like the one that I went to. They're a big dealership, and they do several, probably many European deliveries a year. So just be aware of that. A lot of people that have communicated with me have just, some of those dealers just don't know what's going on. It's not because they have any malice or anything like that. They just don't know, and they're just not giving their customers the right answer. So getting the date that you want, it's a little bit of a challenge now, because a lot of people are doing European delivery. And a lot of us are working. It's important that we get the date that we want. When I did my first European delivery in 2014, I started 3 months out, got the exact date that I wanted, no problem. But that was a year after Porsche started or restarted the program. For my 911, I knew that there's, just from listening to other people, there's a lot more challenge with getting the date that we wanted. So I started off the conversation with Porsche Cars of North America about a year before my date, and I got penciled in. They can't guarantee you the date, but you can start having that conversation with them pretty far in advance. I ended up getting a date within a couple days of where I wanted it, because I canceled it and then I restarted it about 3 months beforehand. So I ended up getting the date actually before I even ordered the car. So I kind of circumvented the dealership a little bit, but ultimately I got the date plus or minus 2 days of what I wanted. So bottom line is, about 3 months at least before you want to do your trip, you need to get the car ordered, get it allocated, get the paperwork done, and all of that stuff.
Can you talk about the contract?
Yeah, there is a contract that you have to sign with Porsche. It basically says, hey, if you back out of the, after they got the ball rolling and you back out of it, it's you have to pay, I think it was like 1% of the price, and then the dealership still has to pay his $3,000 fee. So that's kind of a bummer for everybody. So just make sure that you're going to execute as planned. The other thing to mention is the locking of the options. Because when you order a Porsche through the dealership, normally you get a lock date. Like everything's locked. It goes to the factory by this certain date, but you can change your options before then. With European delivery, the lock date is dependent on once your delivery date is confirmed, then it's locked and the dealership can't change it. So in both of my European deliveries, I ended up changing my order, and I had to get Porsche Cars of North America to unlock it because the dealer couldn't. And she had to go to the factory in Stuttgart to change it. So it's a little bit of a process for them, and they prefer you to just get your order right in advance and then not challenge them. A couple other things I want to talk about, like the electronics, navigation, and things like that. My first European delivery, I could order for $250 European maps, and they could put them on my PCM. That worked great because I got to use my car's own navigation system, which was fantastic. Porsche got away from that now, so you can't use your PCM for navigation, with the exception if you got an iPhone and you have Apple CarPlay. You can connect it. You can use Apple Maps. It's using data on your phone, but you can essentially display the maps on your PCM. I didn't do that option. I prefer just using my iPhone. I think it's in the field of view right now. And I have Waze, which is an application. It's fantastic. It works over here as well. It basically is an interactive navigation system where people can put in hazards, accidents, police, speed traps, camera speed traps, all that stuff. It works fantastic. It also has speed limits on it. So I've been using that the whole time. It doesn't really use that much data while I'm over here. And I got my phones activated for all the countries that we went to, 13 countries. The other option is Porsche offers a free navigation system. It's like a Garmin. That's been in the back. I haven't used it yet. I almost used it in Bosnia because our phones didn't work over there. And we knew that in advance. It was the only country where the phones weren't going to work. But as a backup, we got that. I thought that was just another safety measure.
Radar detector.
And what's that? Oh, radar detector. So I think you can see my radar detector here. I brought it over with me. It's a passport. I Googled like all the different countries that banned radar detectors, and I think there's 5 countries that allowed them. They're mostly in Eastern Europe. So I'm in Slovenia, which allows it right now. But if you get busted in a country that doesn't allow radar detectors, you can get huge fees. They'll confiscate your radar detector. It's not even worth it. I did use it for a little bit of time in Croatia, even though it's not allowed there. But it's been very useful, particularly with the camera radar traps. I can see them in advance because not all the camera radar traps are in Waze. I could detect them up front and slow down enough. I wasn't doing too much speeding, but I was probably about 10% over the speed limit.
Roadside assistance plug kit?
Yeah, roadside assistance and plug kit. So what happens if you have a problem while you're running around Europe? And this was always a big concern of mine, particularly this trip, because I was going to some pretty off the beaten path for European delivery. I went to Romania, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, all that stuff. So Porsche gives you a roadside assistance just like it is in the United States. They give you a phone number, you call them, and somebody can come out and help you. I just didn't know how responsive that was going to be if I was on the Trans-Fagarisan Highway or in Serbia or Bosnia. I was really worried about that. So in addition to the roadside assistance, I also bought a plug kit. I brought that with me. Thank goodness I haven't had to use it, but it's basically a tire plug kit, so I can plug the tire myself if I had to in a pinch. And then also, Porsche offers, as I'm sure you're aware, the goop that you can plug in. There's a compressor under the frunk. The other thing that I did is I plotted every Porsche dealership all along my route in all the countries, and I got their phone number and address in case I did have like a ripped tire or something. I had to get another tire. I mean, you obviously can't do that in Romania, just at some tire store. So I would have to get a flatbed truck to a Porsche dealership. So I had all that stuff up in advance, and that just gave me peace of mind while I was driving around here. So that was kind of nice.
License plates.
What's that?
License plates.
Oh, license plates is another big issue that you have to be concerned about. First of all, you can take a license plate home with you as a souvenir. Everybody does it. I did it on my first one. I'm taking my second one home with me. The biggest issue about license plates, well, there's a couple, is one is it's a tourist plate. So it doesn't look like the normal European license plate. And that has given us some challenges doing border crossings in some of these places. I think it was in Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia, where people say, hey, that's an export plate, and then you're starting to think that they're going to give you a tax on it or something like that. But I dealt with the Serbian embassy, made sure that it was okay before I came into the country. Also called Porsche. They said you should not have a problem at all. They just had questions about it. What do you plan on doing with the car? And I told them, it's a tourist plate. Use those words. And I didn't have a problem. But it also makes you stand out as a tourist. There's a lot of people commented on it at gas stations, so people know that it's a tourist plate. Maybe that makes you a target. So just be aware of that. The other thing is if you are from a state that doesn't have a front bumper, or a license plate requirement on your front bumper, you don't want to get your front bumper drilled, right? So, and of course, over in Europe, you have to have a front plate, and it has to be centered. By law, it has to be centered. So Porsche's has, is this another toll coming on?
It's a vignette, I think you can turn.
Okay. So Porsche has a deal where you can select to not have a front plate drilled into your bumper. Now in Leipzig, what they do, they have two options. One is they have a decal sticker. They stick it on. It looks fantastic. That's the way to go. Now they're only doing that if you're doing, if there's a couple people doing European delivery on the same day. I guess it's economies of scale for them to order these decals. The other option they have in Leipzig is they use ugly black tape, and I've seen pictures of guys getting it taped on onto the front, on the top side of it, not on the front. It looks totally ugly for pictures and all that. Or they'll try to tape it on the front. So I would just challenge them on that to make sure that it's done correctly. Now in Stuttgart, they have a Millworks holder that bolts into your tow hook. You can do that, but you have to sign a waiver because it's not legal, because in Germany it has to be centered. So those are your options, and I've done both. I did the Millworks on my 981 in 2014, and I did the decal this time, and they both worked for me. I didn't have any challenges with anybody. Next question there?
Clear side markers.
Oh yeah, clear side markers. So first European delivery, I had the orange side markers, and all my pictures had the orange side markers. I hate them. I think a lot of Porsche files just don't like the orange ones, and usually we swap them out. So this time I went out and bought them in advance of the United States, and my in-laws bought them for me, which was really cool because I bought it for their Porsche too. So day zero, I swapped them out myself. Took about 5 minutes for both of them. I watched a couple videos. Really simple to swap out, no challenge at all. Did it right outside of the hotel. Luggage. The challenge with luggage is to make sure that it fits in your car before you come over here. So if you're buying an SUV, a Cayenne or Macan, probably not a problem for you. But if you have a Boxster or a Cayman, you don't want to get off the airplane and realize that your luggage doesn't fit in your car. 911 has a little bit more space, but the way that we address that is my wife and I, we got 12 soft luggage bags. We stuffed them with pillows, and then we went to our dealership and we found the best combination that would fit to give us the maximum amount of storage space. He loaned us a 981. It was fantastic, and it worked great. We didn't do that with the 911 because we just had a little bit more luggage than the 981 can hold, and plus I had a trunk that I could make sure that all of our luggage fit, because I'm keeping my 981.
So then you wanted to talk about the delivery day with the break-in, the review with the specialist, the paperwork.
Yeah, so delivery day. What to expect on delivery day is you go there, they assign a delivery specialist with you. He's very knowledgeable. Both times, really knowledgeable guy. They'll spend as much time with you as possible, but just recognize, this is a Porsche you're buying, you want to get that thing out on the street and start driving it, and he's holding you up. So I pretty much knew a lot about the car except for the electronics a little bit, because they changed between the Gen 1 and Gen 2 for the 991. So I had him go over that with me a little bit, and I spent probably about 45 minutes to an hour with him. you can spend as much time as you want. I use that opportunity just to pick his brain about things like break-in. And of course, that's always a hot topic on the internet. When I got my 981, there was about 6 of us that published copies of our manual from all over the world on Planet 9 forum, and they were all different. The break-in process was totally different, and it was most restrictive in the United States. It was interesting to see, and being a lifelong engineer, I know that physics doesn't change when you cross the border. So what's really driving the break-in process is lawyers, and the United States is the most litigious country in the world probably, so that's why we have the most restrictive break-in procedure. So when you talk to these guys individually, they're not on record. If you make them, say it on record, they're going to just repeat what's in the manual. But this time they just said, hey, 6,000 RPM, no problem. He said, the cars that we put on our track, we don't even break them in. He said these cars require very little break-in. The engine tolerances are fine. So I didn't follow the break-in process anyway for either one of my Porsches. So you can just go ask them, and of course, there's no shame in following the break-in process that's in your manual, because we spend a lot of money on it. And, it's only 2,000 miles. And in fact, I'm going to go over 2,000 miles here in about another 100 kilometers. I'm over 3,000 kilometers now. And then paperwork. So the paperwork that he gives you, it's important to have because you're going to need it for country crossings and if you have an accident. So he'll give you your registration, your insurance, paperwork. If you get into an accident, you have to fill out some paperwork, and then you have to give a copy to the other person. There's another form for that. And then they also give you the drop-off paperwork where you do an inspection. I recommend that you wash the car before you bring it for an inspection because it makes it easier for both of you to recognize if there's any damage or not. That's what I plan to do. And then I think that was really all the paperwork there that we had to sign.
The last is just dropping off. So the drop-off points, leaving things in your car, and how long does it take to get back?
Yeah, so dropping it off when if you want to drop it off for free, you got to bring it back to one of the factories, which is Leipzig or Stuttgart. So I'm taking the car back to Stuttgart. Now Stuttgart is actually closed right now for European delivery and drop-offs because they're building the Mission E factory there. It's supposed to open up, I believe, in the first quarter of 2018. So Porsche was nice enough to give anybody who wanted to have a drop-off in or near Stuttgart to there's a third-party vendor there just outside. It's all free. Now, if you wanted to drop it off somewhere else, depending on what your route is, maybe you wanted to drive to England and then drop it off there, you can do that. There's about 20 different drop-off points, and Porsche gives you a list of countries or points where you can drop it off at for a charge, and they range from 300 euros to like 12 or 1,500 euros, depending on the type of car. SUVs cost more, 911s and Boxsters less. And it depends on how far away it is from the German ports of exit, which is Emden.
Paris is pretty.
Yeah, and Paris was one, I think that was like around 1,300 euros. I believe London was one, Slovenia was another drop-off point. So there's a lot of options for you. As far as leaving stuff in the car, if you want to do that, they tell you not to leave anything in the car. Now the reason for that is liability. They can't guarantee that someone's not going to steal it. I inadvertently left stuff in the car last time, just souvenirs behind my seat, and he ended up being there when the car was delivered at my dealership, which was cool. And this time we're going to intentionally leave some stuff because, we bought a lot of souvenirs, we'll put it under the seats, etc. I shouldn't have a problem there. The other thing I was concerned about is because I swapped out the side markers, am I going to have a problem with the shipping process? Because I know it goes through customs and all that. And I've talked to other guys that have done that, and also my dealership. They didn't think I'd have a problem with that at all.
K-band. It's just how long does it take to get back?
Yeah, and how long it takes to get back. So my first European delivery, it took exactly 4 weeks to get back. Turn this thing off here. Exactly 4 weeks. So they advertise, I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks. It depends on whether you're on the West Coast or not. I'm on the East Coast, so it didn't take me that long to get it. I was surprised at how quickly it came. So I would anticipate 4 to 6 weeks, 8 weeks at the most, but you have to wait again for it. Anything else in my notes?
No, you covered.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative, and if you're planning to do a European delivery, it is frigging fantastic. It's one of the best experiences of my life, and I plan on doing a couple more before I kick the bucket. But this one was a dream with the 911 going through Romania and all the different places that we went through. It was just fantastic. So good luck, and if you have any questions, you can PM me. If you're viewing this on a forum or my YouTube channel, just leave some comments at the bottom and I'll try to get back to you. Thanks for watching.